in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Von Warnke, author, outdoor writer, videographer, speaker, blogger, podcaster. Man, am I excited that you joined us for this show. Fired up to do this again. Just get cranked up every time I turn on this microphone and blast this show out there in social media and wherever else it is heard. So whether you're streaming online or you are downloading this on your mobile device, thank you so much for choosing to listen to us today. And I'm excited that you were along for the ride. So this episode, we're going to talk a little more about hunting than we have the last few episodes because we're getting into hunting season. September 1 obviously started the dove season. I went dove hunting the other day, twice actually, beginning of the season opening weekend. Shot a couple of birds and they weren't really flying that well out at my friend Danny Berry's ranch. And basically, he called me the other day. We talk just about every evening, and he called me the other day and said, man, you've got to get out here. They're absolutely just flying in groups of 20 or more, you know, and he was right. I went out there this past Wednesday night before this podcast releases and got out there and really hammered down on them, and we really had a good time on that event, going hunting together, and really got quite a few birds. I'm not the best wing shot, though. I'm a better bow hunter and a better rifle hunter than I am a wing shot with the shotgun. But by goodness, I sure did give it a good try. And it's more of a social event like dove hunting is for a lot of hunters. It's more of a social graces, you know, kind of event where you get together and hang out and drink a few cold ones and just share some good hunting stories. And I just love the outdoors for that reason and so many more. To be able to share that with your friends and your family and that kind of stuff. It's just dove season just rocks. So, and I shot a bird on my opening morning for dove season. That's always a good omen because I typically have a good year for the rest of the year for hunting big game if I shoot a dove on opening morning, and I did. So got that one under my belt and I feel pretty fired up about that. So hope you guys are doing well out there. Hope you guys are shooting doves if you guys have been dove hunting at all. The birds seem to be flying here in the latter part of September here in Central Texas, but I hear some places they're flying great and some places they aren't. I've got a friend that owns a ranch, Circle F Hunting Adventures owns a ranch out in Santa Ana, Texas, Coleman, Texas area, and he's had a lot of good success with dove hunting and over the years, and he's been entertaining big groups, and really excited to have him on the show down the line here when we talk about high fences and big game hunting and stuff like that later in the year. So Circle F Adventures, you can look them up on the internet. I built their website too, so been busy with all that fun stuff. So hope you guys are doing great. I've got a good show for you this week. I'm back with Lou Marullo. Him and I, if you remember, talked back I think in January or February about the SHOT Show. That was in late January this year, 2017, and in February I think we ended up doing a podcast together because I do these every 2 weeks, so it's not immediate after the show typically, but we had a good show together. I have him back on the podcast for the second time now, and really enjoy having him on. He is also known as Eric Adams from the band Manowar, and so he's a rock star lead singer for a heavy metal band that's really popular in Europe and somewhat popular here in the United States, and really a great bow hunter, great teacher. He teaches hunters and bow hunters education classes in the New York area where he lives, and is a great asset for us here at Texas Fish and Game because he brings a lot to the table in his column every month, Bare Bones Hunting, as well as in the Texas Tester reviews that he writes on products and the feature articles that he writes for the magazine like I do, and really excited to have him on the show. So we're talking underground bow hunting tech tips this week, and wanted to get this out to you to really have some opportunity to just break out some ideas for your bow hunting adventures if you bow hunted. If you don't, my goodness, what are you doing? You've got to try bow hunting, even if it's just with the crossbow, even if you don't have the shoulder strength to pull back a compound bow, whatever the case may be. I love hunting with the crossbow along with the compound bow, and I've got both. I've got actually multiples of both, and really enjoy the whole process around that. So that's going to be our interview today with Lou Marullo. Now, we had some technical difficulties a couple of times during the recording of this podcast. We had some issues. basically hearing each other. I could hear him fine on the microphone and everything plugged into my little audio video home office system here, but he couldn't hear me, so we kind of had to cut the interview short in a couple of places, but it's about 30 minutes of content that's really good stuff. I think you're really going to get a lot out of it, whether you're gun hunting or you're bow hunting. There's just some really cool tech tip ideas to help you in your hunting season. And also, I wanted to recommend that you check out Crossbow School. If you visit fishgame.com through the end of September, beginning of October, we have a school program. We call them Deer School or Bowfishing 101 or whatever the case may be. But we've got a program called Crossbow School. And we basically, this is 12 blog posts on a landing page. The landing page is really cool. Elliot Donnelly, our digital publisher, did a fantastic job on that. And it's got videos from Excalibur. Excalibur's the one that sponsored it, who's owned by Bowtech. We have videos on there. We have some articles. I wrote 3 of the articles that are in that program, and wow, I mean, there's just a ton of great information to plug into there with Crossbow School. So you can visit fishgame.com/crossbow school, or you'll see the slider on fishgame.com come up from the bottom of the screen. You can just click on it, and you can take the crossbow quiz, which is really awesome. It's 9 questions that myself and Chester Moore came up with, and our editor-in-chief, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's kind of a challenge in some places and easy in other places, but it's a crossbow quiz you can take at fishgame.com/crossbow school, and also just read some of the content, watch some of the videos. I mean, it's hours of entertainment if you want to check it out, but it's all about crossbows, and I've done a podcast all about crossbows when I first started doing this show for the Texas Outdoor Nation for Texas Fish and Game, and really excited about that. I wanted to do something since I had to cut our interview short this week, is do some question and answer stuff, and these all came on through my YouTube channel. And if you know how to spell my last name, it's Warnke, Dustin Warnke. I don't use my middle name on the YouTube channel, but if you just keyword search Dustin Warnke or Dustin Warnke Hunts, or if you come spelling my name somewhat correctly, it should bring you to me. But I've got a YouTube channel. If you'd like to subscribe, I've got new videos going up there. I'm starting to put these podcasts on videos now too, and making videos at them so people in the YouTube audience can watch them, or really listen to them rather, instead of watching them, and really have a lot of fun with that stuff. My computer gets all the big fans and stuff start going when I start rendering video and stuff. It's kind of funny, but have a lot of fun doing this podcast and sharing that to my YouTube audience. So got a couple of questions that came through the last couple of weeks that I wanted to bring up, and since we had to cut this interview kind of short, I wanted to talk to you about them just as kind of some add-ons to the regular show format of the interview. And basically, I've got 2 people that asked me the same question within 2 weeks of each other, and that is, how long do you keep a crossbow in the cocked or shooting position? How long is it safe to keep a crossbow in that cocked or shooting position? That's a good question. Typically, manufacturers such as Barnett crossbows, which I shoot Barnetts. Also, I'm a fan of Excalibur because they're so tough. I'm a fan of Striker. I'm a fan of a lot of the different crossbows that are out there. 10 Point's got good ones. Wicked Ridge. I mean, there's so many different good crossbows out there these days. So I'm a fan of a lot of the different brands. In fact, all the major American-made brands I'm pretty much a fan of because there's so many good innovations there. But how long do you keep a crossbow cocked? I would say no more than 4 hours or till the end of your hunt. If you're hunting overnight, then I imagine that would be fine to keep them. What you don't want to do is have a crossbow cocked for days and days and days, because that's going to put stress on the limbs. It's going to put stress on the cams in the case of a compound crossbow. It's going to put a lot of stress in a lot of ways on that crossbow that you don't want it to do, especially in the case of a compound one, like I just said. So, I'd say no more than 4 hours or just your hunting duration. The easiest way to discharge an arrow, and a target is the best way to uncock a crossbow, I should say, is to discharge the arrow at a target. Or there's a video on Excalibur's crossbow school program that we've got at fishgame.com that you can watch of how they just uncock a crossbow. And I've done it in several different ways too. I don't want to give away all of my secrets on the podcast of how uncock one with the barnets that I shoot, but they're a lot of fun, and it's really good to keep your crossbow uncocked when it's not in the hunting action. So that's the answer to that question. And then another question I got was, how many grains are your crossbow bolts? Example, 20 inches. I need 425 grains total, and I like for a 20-inch crossbow, and I like to have a luminok or a nocturnal with them. Don't care whether it's 100 grain or 25 grain tips. So what he's asking is, what total weight does he need? So I did some research on Gold Tip's website. That's the bolts that I use, a Gold Tip Laser 3. If you listen to any of my other podcasts that I've done on crossbows, you'll know that. And then obviously I shoot Grim Reaper broadheads because I'm on their pro staff, and I have a lot of fun promoting their company because they just make awesome broadheads that are just lethal on just about anything you shoot in the boiler room. We'll get it done. And basically what I did a comparison, a moon or flat knock 20-inch Gold Tip has 4-inch vanes, be 418 grains. That's of course before the broadhead. 20-inch moon or flat with 2-inch grains, or 2-inch vanes I should say, is 405 grains. And so obviously you get a heavier arrow with the 4-inch vanes. But you can also get throw a broadhead on there. I always like to shoot 125 grain. That's just been my preference for a while. I like putting a heavier broadhead on there. Of course, you can get broadheads that are even heavier than that, but really, 100 grain to 125 grain is what most people use. And Ray just come out with with both. Grim Reaper has. I mean, all the different ones that are out there have different grain weights, and I'm just a fan of the 125 grain. I like having that extra weight on my arrow. I just think it's a cool thing to have. So and it also makes for a heavier arrow overall. And what you don't want to do is shoot an arrow too light. To answer this guy's question, you don't want to shoot. You want to make sure you have a grain weight that's heavy enough, because it'll be like dry firing your crossbow if you don't don't take care of that and do the right thing there. You want to make sure that you have a crossbow bolt or an arrow out of your compound bow that for hunting, that's going to be heavy enough to take care of kinetic energy and doing its thing when it encounters an animal. But also you want to make sure that it's heavy enough where it does not tax your bow or your crossbow, and it's not too light to be where you would basically be dry firing it. So a good archery pro shop will help you with that. I'm not a quote unquote expert on all things archery when it comes to grain weights and spine densities and that kind of stuff. I'm not really an expert in all that stuff. I just know what I like to shoot. Like I say, Gold Tip makes a heck of a great arrow for compound bows and for crossbows, for bolts. And I've had a lot of fun shooting those, and you'll see that in the article that I wrote for Crossbow School, what I prefer there. And I'm a big fan of 2-inch cut radius for the Grim Reapers when it comes to broadheads. Then I also mentioned that to this guy in the comment that I had on my crossbow video. I like the whitetail specials from Grim Reaper because they have such a great cut radius, 2 inches with, it's actually, the blade length is 1 3/4 inches with an expander cup, and those are just incredible. They leave a good three bladed hole that's unlike anything I've ever seen out there, and they fly true. They're mechanicals, obviously, and Lou and I kind of talk about mechanicals in the podcast and that kind of stuff. But really, really enjoy shooting those. But you want to make sure if you're going to shoot larger diameter crossbow bolts, especially larger diameter broadheads, I should say, especially in the case of a crossbow, it's not that big of a deal to get that kinetic energy with a crossbow. With a compound bow, you want to make sure you're shooting over 60 pounds. You want to make sure you have draw weight over 28 inches or so to make sure you have enough kinetic energy to open those bad boys up and really get them through that animal and get a good pass-through shot, or even if you get just a non-pass-through shot, that blade's going to continue working with that in that animal as it's walking and trying to run away. And so those blades really do a good job. And like I say, I'm a big fan of those. We want to make sure with the larger diameter blades like the 2-inch that you want to make sure that you are shooting enough kinetic energy to make that happen. If you have any questions about that, I can usually answer pretty good questions about broadhead length. The smallest Grim Reaper makes is 1 3/8, and then the largest they make is 2 inches. And I can usually help you with that if you want to just message me through my website at dustinsprojects.com. That's all one word, dustinsprojects.com. You can message me through that, and I'll help you with deciding what's best for you. Or you can message me through any of my YouTube videos. And again, my last name is spelled Warncke, and first name Dustin. So anyway, I'm going to get into our interview next, and really appreciate you tuning in and checking out our show. Here's my interview with Mr. Lou Marullo. Mr. Lou Marullo, welcome back to the Best of the Outdoors podcast. It's great to have you on again.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's great to be back again. Believe me.
It's always a pleasure because, not only do you live this life as a hunting editor of Texas Fish and Game, you're also the lead singer as Eric Adams of Man of War on the tour trail, and y'all are doing your farewell, I should say, tour coming up here starting in November, correct?
Yeah, November 6th, I'm flying to Europe. Got production rehearsals right after that in Europe, and with the crew and the lighting company and the sound company and everybody. And then the tour begins. I think it's in Norway on November 15th, somewhere around then.
Cool.
And then it all starts, brother. That's it.
That's great. So you're going to hunt hard as you can up until November the 6th, right?
You got that right. I'll be out there every morning and every evening.
That's right. You get as much hunting in as you can. So if to bring listeners up to speed, you and I have talked on this podcast before, right after SHOT Show in January, February timeframe, and you hunt in New York, in the New York area. You are a writer and obviously editor. You do features like I do for Texas Fish and Game. You also do the Bare Bones Hunting column. And you also have, a lot of different insight in the hunting editor. You do Texas tested reviews like I do for the magazine. And, it's just great to read your insight. I've read your articles for a lot longer than I've known you. And I've always enjoyed your writing and just your passion for bow hunting. And a lot of listeners know that I have kind of a passion for bow hunting. My biggest archery buck was the last buck that I shot with archery. It was 2014 in a lady's backyard in Brushy Creek in the Texas.
I'll tell you, Dustin, that's where the big ones are. You aren't going to find them. They didn't get big being stupid.
That's right.
And where they smell other hunters. It's tough to it's tough to see those big ones. But if you're in a spot where they don't expect to be hunted, well, there you go. It's going to be a surprise for them. They're about to have a bad day and they don't know it yet. That's
exactly. The oh crap face, as you like to say, right?
Yeah, it's great. I tell you, really, I've got some tricks I'm going to talk about with you.
No, that's good.
Some people are going to think these are crazy or I'm crazy. I don't know, but they've worked for me, and I hope that I can kind of relay that to people, and maybe they'll work for them too. But even if they don't work, one of the reasons I'm out there bow hunting is I'm out there to have fun.
Sure.
So if they don't work, I'm still having fun trying things.
Right.
Seeing how the deer react to certain things. It's fun. I enjoy it.
It is. And I wanted to have you on to talk about kind of underground tech tips and hunting tips for bow hunting. So tell us just a little bit. The reason I wanted to have you on the show was basically just since you write such great articles and columns and everything for the magazine on, hunting tech tips and going after, the bucks that aren't on the beaten path all the time, a lot of public land ideas. This is airing right before hunting season in October, right before the October start of bow hunting season, and I'm really excited to have you on. So fire away with some tech tips for us.
Okay, let me tell you. First and foremost, get the best equipment that your wallet can handle. Okay, because you've got to, if don't get broadheads and don't get bows that you wish you could afford a better product, because I'll be honest with you, you spend the money and you're really going to enjoy your hunting a lot better. You really will. There's some tricks that I like to do. One thing I like to do, especially down in Texas when I'm down there hunting, you've got some thick areas down there, particularly in East Texas. I hunted with Chester Moore before he put me in this tree stand, and I wasn't going to see a deer until it was right on top of me. It was a real thick area.
Right.
And but he said this is where the bucks have been working, and I believed it. So, when I got back home, I came up with this idea. These driveway sensors?
Yes.
That you put out there, and and something comes through your driveway, it beeps on your sensor in the house, and you've got company coming in, or
like
somebody's on your
sensor.
property.
Right, exactly.
Right. I use it in the field.
Okay.
And it works great. I put the sensor itself on a deer run that I expect the deer to use in the thicket, all right, on the height of a deer, and I angle it in towards the height of a deer. And then I go to my tree stand, and the receiver on my tree stand has a light on it, a red light.
Uh-huh.
And I snip the alarm so it won't make any noise.
That's brilliant.
I snip the alarm off, and then I hang it in the tree someplace so it'll catch my peripheral vision. And I could be looking at something, in front of me, in the clearing in front of me, waiting for something to happen. And all of a sudden, from the thickest part of the woods, this light starts flashing. I got something coming my way.
Get ready.
I can turn that direction. I'm ready for it, whatever it is. It might be a nice buck, might be a doe, whatever. Something's coming down that trail, and it's not. I set it high enough so I'm not going to catch any squirrels or anything like that. It's high enough to catch the back of a deer walking through.
Oh, that's smart.
That's exciting. It's either going to be a deer or a poacher coming through.
Right. Or somebody
either way, I'm going to know he's there.
Exactly. Well, that all being said, Lou, I was also going to say, it's great for areas that you can't necessarily bait, because a lot of us hunt over bait in Texas, as for people that live outside of the state, where baiting's illegal. It's great for hunting runs and, trails and areas that deer come through, but you can't necessarily, get them into a food source.
Exactly. I mean, even on the baited area, you've got different routes. You can only cover one at a time.
Right.
So if you've got your concentration on, let's say the run you expect is to coming out of your left side, and all of a sudden something is coming out of your right side, out of thicket on your right, you're going to be. You've got eyes in that direction.
Right.
In other words,
you've got to be ready. Right. Exactly.
That's
great. Brilliant.
It really is.
That's
good.
a great idea.
It's less movement for you. You can be prepared, ready to go.
Sure.
And it's pretty exciting stuff. It works. It's worked for me. I'll tell you something else that works. It's everyone who's listening, sit down, because I don't want you to fall down laughing. Okay. But this actually does work.
Okay.
The radios, the handheld radios.
Yes.
That some people hunt with.
Yes. The two-way radios, you mean, right?
Two-way radios, yeah. Right. It's kind of a thing of the past now. But they can be set on different frequencies, or different channels. They can be set on different channels. And so I put them in a plastic bag, all right? I put them in plastic bags, and I set them in different parts of I set them around, okay, where I'm hunting.
Sure.
And if I see, this is in an area where I can see deer in a distance, and I could, if I see a deer way off and it's walking away from me, and I know that on channel 1 I've got a camera, or I've got a radio on channel 1 near where that deer is headed, I'll turn that radio and I'll set it so it'll set an alarm. And all of a sudden I'll press the button, and all of a sudden the alarm, the deer looks and turns and heads towards my direction, and then it heads towards another, and I come another, and it turns closer, and I kind of send the deer right towards me or in the area I'm hunting.
That is brilliant. Anyway. That is great, Lou.
I'm telling you, it works. It's funny, but it works. It really does.
And you put it in like a plastic bag to keep it waterproof, I assume, right?
Correct.
Is that the idea behind that? Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. I keep it in a plastic bag just to keep it waterproof. And, I set it out there. It's great. It really works. It's funny.
But the deer never know it's there. Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. And they never know where the sound is really coming from, because it's coming from somewhere, wherever that plastic bag is. Wow.
Exactly. They just know it's foreign. All of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, this isn't, something's wrong here.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, so it's alerted and it's coming through, but you're ready because it's coming towards you. You're sending it towards you with the right.
Exactly.
I love it, Lou. I never would have thought of that, man. You're brilliant. I'm telling you. This is
great.
Just
stupid tricks that I tried throughout the years, just for something for laughs, kicks and laughs. And sometimes it brings a deer in, and sometimes I just sit back in my stand and laugh my head off. But either way, I'm having a good time.
Oh, sure. That's what it's all about, is getting out there and having a good time. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll tell you something else I do, and I wrote about this at one time. It was near this time of year. It was near, all the dummies in the stores now. All the pumpkins were out, and it was Halloween time, and all the, that kind of stuff. And I remember going up to a friend's porch. I had my young son with me. We went up on a friend's porch, and he was sitting there, like, still, to scare the kids. He was sitting there, like, not moving, and then when the kids got up there, all of a sudden he moved.
Oh,
well, after a while, the kids knew he was there. They weren't afraid of him, because they knew he was there. If word got around in the neighborhood that, go to this guy's house, there's somebody on the porch, and so they weren't afraid of him after a while. And a light went off in my head, thinking, I wonder if this will work. So I had a tree stand, and I set the tree stand up well before the season. I went there, and I had a dummy that I built out of, I put camouflage over it,
Yes.
And I bought a round styrofoam ball that I used for a hat, and I put the hat on it and everything, and I set it up in my tree stand, and I secured it up there so it wouldn't fall out. And I left it there. I didn't worry about my scent. I left it right there, let the deer get used to it. And the deer would get used to that dummy being up in the stand.
Like a
then
person,
opening day,
right?
Like a person.
Yeah, right.
And then opening day came, and there was a different dummy up there. Only this one could pull a pole back.
I read that in one of your columns many years ago, and I was like, that, sir, is brilliant.
That worked. There's a town called Ithaca, New York. I hunt up here, and I tried it in this one spot, and it worked like a charm.
Oh, my gosh. So is most of the hunting that you do up there public land, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I figured that you do up in New York. But yeah, in Texas we have a lot of private land, but there's still wary animals, and it doesn't really matter if you hunt public or private. The pressure's still on. There's still a lot of the same, aspects that come with it for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I hunt, I try to think of the deer's nose.
Sure.
That's the most important thing.
Yes.
I mean, I said this too before in different columns that, I don't know if people know this, but a human carries about 5 million scent receptors. That's what we normally have. A dog has 220 million scent receptors.
Whoa.
And you can see that when your dog is out chasing a bird or whatever,
right.
He can follow scent. They find criminals, and the dog can follow scent, and a dog also can smell fear.
That's true.
It's true. Smell emotion, and that's at 220 million scent receptors. A deer carries about 297 million scent receptors.
Whoa.
So how we get close enough with the bow to even get a chance at these animals astounds me. I just don't know how we do it, but I think we have to play the nose of that deer, play the wind a lot.
Yes.
You got to have a lot of respect for that animal. And I tell people, wear rubber boots when you're out there hunting with a bow. Tuck your camouflage pants inside your boots, so when you're walking to your stand, the brush that you walk up against does not leave your human scent.
Yes.
And some people listen, some don't. I get a kick out of some people saying, well, I was told to wear rubber boots, so, tomorrow's opening day of deer season, I'm going to go buy my boots.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then they smell like a Goodyear tire.
Exactly.
Go out and, it's
seasoned.
a foreign scent in the woods, and the deer are alerted. And,
right.
You just have to be careful. You got to clean your clothes, shower before every hunt, morning or evening. Just shower every time you go out there using scent-free soap.
Right.
Scent-free clothing.
Deodorant.
And keep your clothes in I keep my clothes in a Rubbermaid bin and I keep it there in the back of my truck until I get to my spot where I'm going to hunt.
Uh-huh.
You know, then I put my clothes on and walk in the woods. Now, if I ever get stopped at a traffic stop on the way, the cop's going to look at me and he's going to say, "Huh, this guy's in his underwear. What's he doing driving?"
He's so funny. Oh,
You
that's
know,
great. Yeah,
but I've got my long john underwear because it's cool, you know,
right.
time to wear it. And so I've got my, you know, long john underwear, and I drive to the place like that. I don't even put on my regular clothes to get to the spot because they have a scent, you know.
Yes. You get out and refill your gas. That's something a lot of guys don't think of, you know.
Oh, you've got to do that the day before.
Exactly. You can't be
do that on the way
to the gas station and expect not to get smelled, because those deer, I mean, like you said, the millions of receptors they have above ours, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, they can pick up stuff that even a dog can't. I mean, they can pick up, you know, just the molecules of anything. And I really think what you say is just brilliant. And the other point I wanted to make at this point is, you know, you talked about there being buy the best you can afford. You know, I'm on the pro staff of Grim Reaper Broadheads. There's no most everybody that listens to this show knows that. You know, I personally think they're some of the best broadheads for mechanicals that they open and close for me every time. I've killed dozens of animals with them, hogs and deer, and you know, they're $40-$45 a pack. You know, and a lot of people say, well, if I can go buy the Walmart special broadheads, and I talked about this in my crossbow school coverage. You know, don't buy off the clearance rack when you're shopping for gear, you know.
That's right. That's right. And don't stop at a garage sale.
Yes.
Pick up something that someone's selling, like I've had this bow now, and I don't use it anymore. Well, how do you know this guy didn't dry fire the ball?
You never know what you're going to get. That's a perfect point.
You never know.
Yes.
You just never know. It's you know, when it comes to something that could hurt and harm you in a hard way, you've got to be careful and spend the money if you can afford it, you know.
Sure.
If you can afford it. And you don't have to. Here's another thing, Dustin. You know, not everybody can afford to hunt like that, but you don't really need a lot of money to hunt. Of course, you need a bow. You got to have your arrows. You got to have your broadhead. You got to have your doe tag. You got to have your tags to hunt legally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got to have all that. But you really don't need. You don't need to spend a ton of money on camouflage. You know, people look at that and say, well, every television show I see, there's people walking around in camouflage.
That's so
that's
true.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. But, you know, deer see in shades.
Yes.
You know, they see in shades. If you can't afford to get out there and go in camouflage, and all you've got is a plaid shirt, you can still hunt in that plaid shirt. A deer is not going to see that blue and red color.
I mean, you know this as well as I do. Look at Fred Bear. He never wore camouflage in the years that I saw him, you know, on TV or whatever. He wore a plaid shirt and overalls or whatever and just got out there and got it done, you know, with a stick bow and a wooden arrow, you know, and he killed a ton of animals over his lifetime.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got to just listen, you know, play the wind,
sure.
And you've got to blend into your surroundings, and that might mean you've got to just if you can afford the camel, great. If you can't, don't not hunt. You know, Don't take the day and say, well, I can't go. I don't have the camouflage. Well, it's not really necessary. Get out there with what you have, and as long as it's not one solid color,
right?
You can hunt. You'll blend in fine with it. Now, do I prefer to hunt with camo? Yes, I absolutely do. In every picture you see of me, you're going to see me in camouflage.
Right.
But I also teach the bow course, and I tell some of these kids that you can't afford it. Don't worry about it. You know,
sure.
This is what you need. You know, and they have to get that in their heads instead of being drilled about camouflage clothing. You know, now, I'm not knocking the camouflage clothing companies.
No, I know you're not. But they're in business.
They come out with great camo and they blend in with different surroundings.
Right.
That's great to have. I'm just talking about the kids that want to get out there and hunt and don't think they can because they can't afford it.
Right.
that's crazy. You're missing too much of what nature has to offer. And get out there and enjoy it.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I advocate on this show all the time, and anybody that's listened to any number of episodes will know that. I'm all about easy wins. I'm all about making it affordable and accessible. And that's something Chester has taught you and I over the years, is making it something that everybody can participate in. And that's one thing your column gears towards, is not the most expensive $8,000 night vision scope. It's, products in your Texas Tester reviews that are affordable, that work well, that help you, in your pursuit. And that's something I'm really big about with this podcast, is getting that out there and showing people that this is accessible, this is doable. There's just a few, tips you can follow to make you more successful,
educate. Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Again, if you hunt with the wind in your face, you've got a real good shot at getting a deer. As long as the wind is in your face, too many guys go there and not even think about it. They get up in the stand and, because, hey, this is where Uncle Joe got a deer every year, and I've seen deer out of this stand, and, I'm going to get one out of there. Yeah, it's tradition. And I hunt out of this stand every day, and this is where I'm going to go. Well, you've done nothing but educate the deer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the deer are going to say, well, there's human scent in this area. I'm staying away, And that's what they do. So, hey, I have to tell you this other trick while it's on my mind before I forget. So people, make deer drives with the gun.
Yes.
Here's how you can do it with two people. Two people, okay? If you find a small section of woods to hunt, and, it's just a small area, and you think deer are in that area.
Yes.
Well, one of you goes on an escape route. The deer use one run usually all the time. They go out one way all the time because it's their safe way out of the woods.
Yes.
When hikers go in there, bird watchers, whatever. They one way to get out of the woods all the time. So before you hunt that area, the two of you walk the edge of the woods. You walk the edge of the woods, okay? And while you're walking, you're talking and talking on the radio to each other. Loud.
Right.
Loud. You're making it clear that people are out here on the side of this field, okay? And you're walking along the edge of the woods talking. And then you start to walk back. When you reach the edge, you walk all the way back to where you started. And on the way back, you each have a can of anything, WD-40, anything, Old Spice, anything at all. And spray it on the trees.
Yes.
While you're talking. Spray it on the trees every once in a while. While you're talking, just boom, Old Spice, whatever, on the trees. And then the one person walks all the way back to the escape route with the wind in his face, and he stands there. And when he's there, he radios the guy and let him know he's in position. Then the walker can just zigzag slowly through the woods, and the deer won't break out on the edges because they just heard people there and they can smell people there.
Right.
They're not going to go on the edges. They're not going to break out. And there's someone coming behind them. The only route they can take is towards that other hunter. And if you're walking through the woods, nice and slow, the deer aren't going to get up and bolt away. They're going to get up and be annoyed, and they're going to be bumped.
Because they have to move, right? They've got to move.
They have to move.
Right.
And they're just going to walk along. They're going to walk right to the other hunter. And that has worked for me. I can't tell you how many times.
That's brilliant.
That's great.
That's brilliant. And so once you encounter the deer, you obviously want to make some kind of noise to stop it and get a shot off, right? Is that the main,
right?
The main
got to
goal?
grunt or whistle or do anything at all to stop that deer. But also keep in mind that front leg that you're in, whatever side you're looking at, okay, that front leg has got to be forward.
Yes.
When you stop that deer.
Yes.
Because if it's back and you stop the deer, well, now you got to hold your bow. You can't shoot because that shoulder bone is going to be covering the vital area, and you have to wait. You have to wait until that leg goes forward, and then it's wide open, and there's your shot.
You've got a wide open shot to the vitals, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I've always
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what is your favorite versus? I don't want to ask your favorite brand on this show, but I mean, what is your? Do you prefer fixed blade? Do you prefer, because you're kind of an older school hunter when it comes to, you've been bow hunting
Yeah.
for so many years, so many
Yeah.
decades. Are you more
Yeah.
into fixed blade? Are you more into fixed? Because I'm more into mechanicals. Because I've had mechanicals perform and almost be as reliable as a fixed blade.
Yeah.
In the case of Grim Reapers. But I mean, what is your preference?
Well, I shoot with both, but I shoot with fixed blades when I'm deer hunting. I just feel more comfortable with that. I mean, again, it's a personal preference.
It is.
What you grew up with, what works for you. Like you said, mechanicals work for you. I had one time when a mechanical opened up in the flight. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason one of the blades opened up and it didn't fly correctly then, and I wounded the animal I was shooting at.
And that's tough. That's just tough.
Yeah, that's tough. And when I found the arrow, only one side was open, and I thought, oh, this just stinks. And I wouldn't risk it after that. I said, well, I'm just going to shoot fixed blades from now on, and that's it. Or I like to shoot the replaceable blade that you put in on the fixed broadhead. And then I know it's always razor sharp.
So that's the case of, let's just say, a Muzzy or some of the other fixed blade heads that have the Thunderhead, right?
All those had those fixed. They call them fixed blades, but they're actually replaceable blades you put in. And I do it every year, even if you didn't use the broadhead and it's been in your quiver all season long and all year long. The following year, they have to be replaced. Oxidation is taking place,
and they don't.
And they're not as razor sharp as they have to be.
Right.
Will it hurt a human? Oh yeah, you'll have a pretty bad day if someone has an accident. You'll cut yourself with it.
Yeah.
But it's not razor sharp, and you owe that as an ethical hunter. You owe it to the deer.
Sure.
You just do, or the animal you're hunting. Now with turkeys, I put my mechanicals on.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because with turkeys, if I use the fixed blade, I've had them where I shoot the arrow and it goes right through the bird. The bird flies off. And how are you going to follow any blood trail?
Sure.
All you did was you left a dinner for some coyote when he finds it.
Right. Right.
So with a mechanical broadhead, when you shoot it with mechanical broadhead at a turkey, the energy it takes to open up the blades when it hits the bird, that's enough to slow the arrow down, and the arrow goes about halfway through the bird and it'll stop. Now the bird can't fly; it can run away, but it can't fly.
Right.
And easy to find,
easier to track, easier to find. No, that's important because a lot of people make the case against using mechanicals for wild hogs, let's say, because they're so tough. I've shot with my compound bow wild hogs, and I've had the arrow stick, but the animal still dies and the arrow doesn't pass through completely. But in the case of turkey especially, that makes all the sense in the world because that impact of the kinetic energy of those blades opening has an impact on something that's small. And the turkey's not like a chicken, but I mean the turkey's smaller than a big game animal. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think that's great.
Yeah. Well, that's just from trial and error,
Right.
I mean,
that's why I wanted to have you on. I need your trial and error experience, man. We all do for bowing out there.
When you get up at dark 30 in the morning, I know for turkey season, man, some places I hunt, I've got to get up at 2:30 in the morning to get to the spot. And that's not too much fun to do that for 5 or 6, 7 days in a row, And when that happened to me, and I had the arrow go right through the bird, and I spent the whole morning looking for that bird, and I couldn't find it, and
sure.
So that's the best I'm using that.
Right.
And I was out hunting with my cousin Tim, and we were filming some hunt at the time, and we had 2 birds come in, and he was going to shoot one with the gun, and I said, well, wait until I take one with the bow, and then you take one with the gun.
Sure.
So I shot with the bow. The arrow went half through the bird, and the other bird, because there's no noise, the bird didn't know what was going on. The other bird just kind of jumped a little bit and bucked a little bit further, but it was still well within gun range. And my cousin Timmy said, "Okay, here we go, bang!" We had a double.
Wow, double
great.
archery shotgun double. I love it. Wow,
it was great.
That is great. And that, my friends, was the end of our interview together because we just did not get our cell phone signals. You know how technology can be. I love it. I use technology every day, but sometimes when you can't get a good phone call together, especially when it comes to recording this podcast, because I try to put a big level of professionalism in this show, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to it. But, you know, sometimes just phones and cell phones and mobile devices and technology just fails, and this was one of those cases. But we got a good interview, I think, and so that's some good concepts for turkey and deer hunting this fall. Some new ideas for you probably that you haven't thought of before, so I at least wanted to bring that to fruition. And happy hunting season to everybody, with bow season coming up here and then rifle season shortly after. Here in Texas, we have just huge rifle seasons and huge bow seasons that you can hunt 3.5 months almost, if you consider the special late season for bow season, beginner to late season, and for antlers and spike season. You know, we just have a very liberal season here in Texas, and I don't take that for granted every year. I see how some states have a 10-day window you can get out and kill your deer, and we really have a big one. So I'm very blessed in that regard, and definitely all my Texas people out there, be blessed and carry that blessing with you as you talk to other folks from other states. We really have it good here. So also, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you've not done so already. That is free. You get a new show every 2 weeks. Also, if you've not done so, subscribe to our Texas Fish and Game newsletter at fishgame.com. There's a newsletter sign-up section on the header of the website, and you can also learn more about Crossbow School as well and get newsletter updates. We do 3 newsletters a week, and I talk about these all the time on the podcast, but for those of you guys that are new to this, Tactical Tuesday, which comes out every Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation newsletter. Lots of fun in there. It's like getting a mini magazine 3 times a week. There's plenty of stuff to read on. It all refers back to fishgame.com, where we post our stories. And then Chester does a lot of wildlife stuff on Wednesdays. Just really unique stuff. And Chester told me the other day, you know, he's really excited about the direction we're really moving for 2018 for the magazine. We're doing some things differently and bringing in some folks that you haven't heard of a lot to write for us. And the magazine continues to be great. And the magazine subscription is pretty cheap. It's under $20 for a year. A little bit more for 2 or 3 years, and there's always some great promotions going on there. So you can buy your Texas Fish and Game subscription even if you live outside the state. It's a great read. There's a lot of good, even we call it on the website National News of Texas, you know, because we're the Texas Outdoor Nation. There's lots of really great info there for you to digest and consider for your future hunting and fishing adventures. And again, I love doing this show. I try to bring you, you know, hope and inspiration and really the outdoor lifestyle and everything that we strive to do here at Texas Fish and Game. I want to bring home, you know, to you, and so you can go out and do the best of the outdoors. That's why I call this podcast the best of the outdoors. So really want to bring you the best info and tools and gear and things like that for you to check out. Also, wanted to make sure I mentioned Jayson Sacco on this podcast because he has an interview with Lou Marullo. It's a little bit longer than our interview with Lou on his show, and it's been a few weeks ago since it's come out, but he really did a good interview with Lou Marullo. His website is Outdoor Adventures with Jayson. You can just Google keyword search Outdoor Adventures with Jayson. And Jason's name is spelled Jayson, so we want to make sure you get that correct, Jayson, Outdoor Adventures with Jayson. Heck, I'll put his info in the show notes when I get done recording and producing this podcast. And I really appreciate you guys watching, reading, listening. Like I said, I just put these up on YouTube, so if you're listening there, thank you so much for doing so. Subscribe to my channel. I got about 2,600 or so subscribers on YouTube, and that's a way you can listen to the shows from here on out. I think I'm going to do every episode on that podcast on YouTube as well. I'll do a YouTube version of that podcast. And anyway, lots of really fun things going on, and really excited about the future, especially to be with you in this show, and really appreciate you guys checking us out and tuning in, and have an awesome day in the outdoors.